Physics equations is always very interesting, most especially when you know the basics where these equations are actually coming from. Today we are going to look at another basic equation that we need in physics, and that is wave equation. Wave equation is one of the most important uh, formula in physics. And I want you to pay attention so you can understand the root of this equation. And you will never forget it. When you listen to radio or television, they will always quote one channel or the other. They will tell you 97.6 megahertz. They will tell you 28.4 megahertz and all that. So what are they actually talking about? So when they hear, you hear megahertz and all that, or maybe ultra high frequency and so on and so forth, you normally hear. So they are just telling you the frequency of their transmitter. So I am going to analyze this thing so you understand the relationship between the frequency, the speed, and the wavelength of a wave. So I want to make sure that you understand fully what we are saying by giving you a typical feature of a wave so we can analyze it and then you can understand what we are saying. Now, let us look at this wave equation. This wave equation from point A to this point B is the wavelength. Yes, it is half of a circle and then half of another circle. That is a complete wave. When you look at from B to C, it is another wavelength, and then C to D is another wavelength. They all comprises of the upper and the lower half circle, and that makes it a complete what cycle. So, and each the distance between each point is what we call the wavelength. So wavelength can equally be the distance x and y here. So which is the distance between two successive crests or trough in a wave. Now, what is frequency? What is frequency? Frequency is the number of complete cycle of a wave made in 1 second. So what that means is that if a wave travels from A to B and then travels from B to C and then from C to D in 1 second, it means that the frequency of this wave is 3 because it traveled 3 waves in 1 second. So what that means is that the frequency of the wave is going to be what? 3, the number of complete cycle of a wave in 1 second. So what that means is that frequency is n number of cycle over t. So that's what it means. So we define frequency as the number of what? Complete cycle in 1 second. Okay, now what is wavelength? What is wavelength? We already saw what a wavelength is, that it is the distance from A to B, a distance between 2 points in phase or between two successive crests or trough in a wave. Now, what is period? Period is the time it took a wave to complete 1 cycle. Now, look at 1 cycle from A to B. From A to B is 1 cycle of a wave. So how much time does it take for a wave to travel from A to B? And that is the time we are talking about as the period. So the period is the time taken to travel from A to B, which is a complete cycle of a wave. So what we do what? T all over n. So the time taken to complete 1 cycle of a wave. So when you look at these two equations, look at the two equations here. This is frequency, this is period. So when you look at it, you can see this is n over t and this is t over n. What that means is that the other one is the inverse of the other one. T over n over t. So mathematically, what we are saying is that t is equal to 1 over f and f is equal to 1 over t. That is simply what it means. Now, let us define the wave speed. The wave speed is the distance traveled by a wave in 1 second. Okay, so if a wave travel a complete cycle in 1 second, so the distance traveled is the speed. That is what the speed is. So it is simply the distance or wavelength per unit what? Time. Okay, so we define wave speed as what? The speed, the wavelength over the time, which is period. So when we look at this, then we can equally simplify this as wavelength over 1 multiplied by 1 over t. So we are just simplifying this so we can understand it. So when you look at 1 over t, you can see that 1 over t is here and it is equal to what? Frequency. So what that means is that we can simply say that V is equal to wavelength over 1 multiplied by 1 over t, which is what? F. So, and that is going to give us wavelength multiplied by F will give us F multiplied by wavelength. So that means that V is equal to F lambda. And that is the formula for the speed of a wave. So it's very important. You need to subscribe to my channel so you can get more of this type of equation. So always share to your friends and be, moving forward.